Hello and welcome to another Mod Spotlight. This time I'm taking a look at gokiStats, which adds a leveling system to Minecraft. To access this, you just have to press the keybind. By default, I believe it's Y, and you'll have this little stat menu pop up. At the bottom, you can see your current experience, because this uses experience and not levels, and it has a variety of different stats you can level, giving you different effects. So, to quickly review the different stats, we have mining proficiency to increase your mining speed, digging proficiency to increase your digging speed with shovels, chopping proficiency to increase your speed with axes, trimming proficiency to increase how fast you shear things. Then you have some damage resistances, tough skin to reduce explosion damage, protection to reduce most mob damage, tempered for fire and lava damage, and here's one for feather falling to help reduce fall damage. You also have one to climb and swim faster, sprint and jump further and higher, more damage with a sword and bow, a chance to instantly kill enemies with low health or below a certain threshold, and it's a very low chance, just to note. Treasure Finder, which works a bit differently than the others, so I think I'll come back to that in a minute. Furnace Finesse, which increases how quickly your furnaces work. Steady Guard, which is personally one of my favorites. It reduces the knockback you take while blocking, and I kind of like that because blocking's not that useful by default, and reducing your knockback like when a skeleton shoots you is pretty handy. There's Stealth, which makes you move faster and have a better chance to reap, this one, when you're sneaking. And Mining Magician, which has the chance to transform one ore you mine into another, so you can mine coal and end up getting diamonds. Now let's actually start leveling some of the stats. They all start off rather low, cost-wise. You can see 6 experience, and you can see I have a whole bunch of levels and experience if you look at the bottom. But yeah, it starts off slow, and you'll just get small boosts, but as you level up, you'll keep using more and more experience, and it can rise pretty high in cost. By default, you can only go to level 25, but you can change how the levels work and how the buffs and costs also work, but I'll get to that in a minute. For now, let me just max out mining here so you can see how good it gets. Okay, so I'm about to max out on mining. As you see, now I'm level 25. It shows max is all golden, and I mine 100% faster. And I probably should have made a pickaxe to do a before and after comparison on how fast that is, but I'll do that next for digging properly. But as you see, it also used up all my levels pretty much. I have 46 experience left, which is equal to level 2. But yeah, I had like, I think 42 or something. So it takes a lot of levels to max out these, or at least when you get into higher levels, it starts costing a lot more. Okay, so I got a bunch more levels real quick, and now I'm going to do a little digging test. Now, you can see here's how a stone shovel digs sand. And now let me level this up all the way to max, and you can see how fast the 100% is, so give me just 1 second. Okay, so this is now maxed out, and now watch how fast I dig. I'm not sure if it looks that much faster for a stone shovel, but I'm pretty sure the stone shovel is added to the list of buffed shovels. And if you want to see what that is, I believe the keybind's H by default. Yes, it is. So when I open up, you can see this item is in digging proficiency, and I can remove it. If I wanted to say for some reason I wanted a shovel to work for, I don't know, mining proficiency, I can just click add, and it will automatically add the item in my hand to the config. So I can do the same thing. If we look here for the sword, it is count as a sword in the config. So if you do have any new tools or weapons or such, and you want to add them to the stats so they get the buff from like the swordsmanship, you can just add them through this simple little menu here, which is very nice and easy versus going through the config, finding out the item IDs and all that stuff. While I'm on the subject of config, I should also note that you can also customize, let's see here, the costs and the levels and the buffs. Unfortunately, all the buffs work the same across, so you can't lower how much mining buffs without lowering how much swords buff and vice versa. So, actually, I did want to do a little sword test as well. If I spawn a creeper there, it takes 3 hits of an iron sword. But if I level up my swordsmanship to max, let's see how much it takes now, because I think I get, okay, it is 100% more damage. So, now with an iron sword, it now only takes 2 hits. I don't have damage indicators, so you couldn't see exactly how much, but it pretty much just doubled my damage. Anyway, like I was saying, you can customize the max level for all the stats, which is 25 by default, and you can also mess with the buff and experience multipliers, which are both 1.0 by default, and changing them will change how effective the buffs are and how much experience all the levels are. It can be a bit hard to get exactly what you want, though. Like, if you want to raise it to level 50 and make it do exactly 200%, it might not end up being so easy to do that because of how it multiplies, but you can still tweak them if you want. And also, another thing I should note is that by default, you will lose your stats on death. So, I'm not... Actually, let's just use a creeper real quick. Actually, it probably will kill me and then I'll have to have some issues, but... Ow. So now when I respawn, you see I lost all my stats because I'm still using the default config, but you can turn that off in the config if you want to keep your stats and make it more of a long-term goal and not something you lose on death. A few last things to note, there are config options to add more sources for the different protections here. By default, it's mob, explosion, fire, lava, and fall, I believe. But if there was another one for like a different mod or such you wanted to add into a protection, you could. And you also can change how much health for the reap limit here. Like, it's currently less than 20, but you could change it to be less than 10 or less than 100, depending on what other mods you have. And lastly, I return to Treasure Hunter. This one works very different from the others because it only has 3 levels no matter how you change it, and it tends to cost a lot more than the others. I think it costs 10 levels for level 1, 20 levels for level 2, and 30 levels for level 3, at least by default. But what this does is when you dig certain blocks, usually dig and not mine, but I think you can change that, it will occasionally give you some different items, and you can configure what items it gives you. So I don't have any skills in it right now, so I can't show you, but it could also take a while. But how it works in the config is, it looks kind of confusing, but it has a little formula like this. The first ID in the little line there is the item ID, which would be 12 if you wanted sand. Then the next one is its metadata value, which usually would be 0. And then the next one would be its ID for the item you want to give. So if you want to give gunpowder, let's say, you'd put in 289. Then the next one would be the meta ID of the item you want to give. Finally, the level of treasure hunter you want, so level 1, 2, or 3. And then lastly, the weight or chance of getting the item, which is usually like 10 or less from the base config. So yeah, you can make it so you can level up treasure hunter, and when you dig different blocks, you have a chance to find different things. So you could put like diamonds in the sand, or coal in the gravel, or vice versa, or any random thing. So it's a pretty cool customizable one, or at least a bit more customizable than the others. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting stat. Anyway, I think that's it for this mod spotlight. Personally, I think this mod is a great way to use some levels and get some nice buffs. It's decently customizable, and I really like how it's a nice sync for experience and levels in the early game before you can get enchanting and such. Like, it only costs low experience, so I only have 1 level. Yeah, I can get level 2 digging, which is a nice little boost. So if you want to invest your levels and not save them up for a big enchantment, especially in the early game, this can be a really useful way to go about that. And it adds a really cool leveling system, and I haven't seen many of those from Minecraft. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this mod spotlight, and until next time, goodbye.